Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Advanced Talks. Today, we are embarking on our 5-part series yet again for part 2 of the things that we need to burn, the essential elements we have to let go of in our business in order to be successful. Success is not just about what we learn and what we gain, but also about what we leave behind. So to recap quickly, for those who did not listen to last week's episode, I highly encourage you to. It was all about burning our exit strategies. And I shared a story of a man by the name of Hernan Cortez. In 1519, he took this small army to the shores of Veracruz. They were not large in size. They were not well equipped, but he painted this story and this vision of how they were going to seize this treasure that had been tried to be seized for over 600 years, and larger armies, much more well-equipped armies, came up short. So he painted this vision in this story, and then he turned to his men and he uttered 3 words. He said, "Burn the ships." He wanted them to burn their exit strategies. He backed them in this proverbial corner to where inspiration now turned into desperation. They had 2 choices. Either we're going to succeed, we're going to take the island and the treasure, and we're going to leave in the Aztecs' boats, or we are going to die. And although we don't have ships like they did, a lot of times we have exit strategies in our business that serve as distractions, that serve as safety nets, but ultimately hold us back from true success. So today we're going to look at part 2. What is something else that we need to burn in our business in order to move forward? And the second topic we're going to talk about today is a very important one that we have all struggled with, and that is comparison. You've often heard comparison is the thief of joy. It's actually also the enemy of progress if you let it. Some people are fueled by other people. They're inspired. They see people go live. They see people gaining followers, and they're encouraged to do the same. And then some people find this crippling and distracting. And what will happen is oftentimes they back up, they get quiet, or eventually they quit. Now, most people fall into comparison with others who are typically at a similar level or similar speed. It's oftentimes happen when you think you should be on the same pace as somebody else or a little bit further, and you find that they are getting ahead. So in this industry, let's talk about some things that are easy to compare. Easy to compare your teams. Maybe you say, oh, well, this team has a better community. Maybe I should be doing something different. Maybe I'm not doing enough. You compare your sales. You compare your following. You compare your rank advancement, your advancement through a compensation plan. You compare your leadership. Maybe you see somebody flying through the compensation plan a lot faster, but you started at the same time. You see somebody growing their following, and all of a sudden now you're questioning your niche and if you should change. You see somebody leading Zooms, and now you're like, am I doing enough? So again, then what happens? You pull back, you go silent, or worst of all, you quit. You see, it's easy to be satisfied with your life until you see that someone has something that you don't. Let me give an example. My grandmother, she used to always send checks to my brother and I on Christmas and our birthdays. And then we would oftentimes give each other a hard time of like, oh, mine's more or whatever, just to give each other a hard time, even though they were always the same. But as my grandmother got older, she actually got more forgetful. And there was one birthday where she sent me $100 or Christmas, $100 check, and my brother got $50. And of course, right away, he's like, man, that's not fair. Mine should have been 100. And I'm laughing. I'm like, well, you snooze, you lose. Just giving each other a hard time. Brother, sisterly love. Well, the next year, guess who got the $100 check and guess who got the 50? I ended up with the $50 check. And of course, same thing. Man, I should have had $100. You see, the fastest way to kill something special is to compare it to something else. You have something special going on in your business. You have something special as a leader. You have unique qualities. And the fastest way to kill that is to compare it. I should have been happy with 50. That's all we should have received anyways. I should have been thinking how I could spend the 50. Instead, I thought, should have been 100. Wherever comparison begins, contentment ends. Wherever comparison begins, contentment ends. You first have to be self-aware that you're even doing this. Okay, you can sit here and lie to yourself and say, oh, they're just finding inspiration. You know the difference. You know when you find yourself comparing or when you find yourself inspired by somebody. So be aware that you're doing this. The second thing is set personal goals that are just for you and nobody else. Celebrate the small wins, not just the big ones, every step of the way. Practice gratitude and affirmation for the things that you do have. Limit your exposure to comparison. Listen, if you have to mute that person for a while, mute them. You have to protect your business, protect your sanity so that you can keep going. And then lastly, you have to seek inspiration. You have to find somebody way ahead of you. For me, this was Jessie Lee Ward. I loved following her. She was actually one of the very first people I ever found in 2017, the very first podcast I ever listened to. She always inspired me, but she was several steps ahead of me in the industry. She had been in it longer. She had more experience. She was much more advanced. I never found myself being like, man, why did she get that? I should have got that. It was always just like, wow, she inspires me. When she was live, I was like, I need to go live. So find somebody several steps ahead of you. Who is that for you? And the last reason we need to burn the ships of comparison, and this, in my opinion, might actually be the most important, is because we only see the outcome, not the outtake. We only see a small picture. We see the outcome people want to show us, not the outtake. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I was at a Shania Twain concert with my childhood best friend last month. And everybody had their fringe, their cowboy boots, their sparkles, the hot pink, the leopard, all the things ready to celebrate and have a good time at the Shania Twain concert. And then also ready to document a lot of content, right? Everybody had their phones out. And there was a girl and her mom in front of us. And I watched as the young girl handed her mom the phone and requested that she record her. So the mom went up behind her and the girl pretended she was dancing and she had Shania in the background. She was doing a little choreographed dance. And the girl turns to her mom and tells her to basically stop recording. She's done. And the mom's just smiling and naively still recording. She's just doing what she's told. And the girl kind of gets angry and snaps at her mom and kind of does a little like hand gesture at the neck, just like cut it off, done. I said stop recording. And it was this really interesting scenario that played out. And my best friend and I looked at each other and we were like, wow, that was an authentic moment. But you know, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all you're going to see is the outcome. You're not going to see the outtake. You're not going to see the messiness. You're not going to see that she actually got really frustrated at her mom. You're going to see a good time at a Shania Twain concert. So oftentimes what we're trying to copy is people's cropped photos, right? You know, when you crop a photo and you're cropping the messy shoe out of it and anything you don't want people to see. Well, we're trying to imitate people's cropped photos, and that's not realistic. Be careful what you copy in your heart. Be realistic. And social media, which most of us are using in this industry, is one of the biggest pitfalls of temptation when it comes to comparison, because you are seeing highlight reels. But when you constantly measure your success against others, you diminish your self-worth. And you hinder your progress. Ultimately, the only person it hurts is you. It becomes a distraction that leads to self-doubt, insecurity, and frustration. And as leaders in this industry, you have to lead by example. You're always going to fall prey to comparison. We all will. You're never just going to arrive and be perfect and never fall prey. You're going to find yourself falling prey to comparison. But remember, it only hinders your progress and potential and the progress and potential of your teams. Your success story is only written by you, only you. So just like that day when he turned to his men and he said, burn the ships, They could not compare themselves to what other men did. What if they would have even negatively started comparing themselves to like, well, they tried and they failed. I can't do it. It's not always positive comparison, right? They had to stay in their lane. They had to know their why, know the vision. They had to burn their exit strategies, as we talked in last week's episode. And then you have to burn the ship of comparison. If you want to be successful in this industry or any business in life, you have to burn the ship of comparison. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you found this beneficial, inspiring in some way. If you did, would love for you to subscribe to this podcast, share it. Be sure to tag FancyVans89 over on Instagram. Let us know how you benefited from today's podcast episode, and we'll see you next time.